Alright, let's go through another long box. Same as my previous video. This long box is just issues that I've acquired over the last couple of years. I haven't mixed them in with my main collection yet. Went to a couple conventions, a couple comic shops, mostly eBay finds. Let's go through it and see what I got. These are all older comics, which is all I read, pretty much. Here's a graphic collection of the Green Lantern Green Arrow by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. The reason I got this older version, if you get the more recent versions, Neil Adams had gone back and completely butchered all his stuff with recoloring. So any recent, so I'd say in the last 20 years, reprint of Neil Adams, whether it be Green Lantern, Batman, any of his work from the 60s and 70s, he's destroyed it with recoloring. So I think this graphic novel, whatever you want to call it, is old enough where he hadn't done that yet. Garth Ennis, one of the great comic writers, way up there, probably top 5. This is a fun Carlos Esquerra. He got his start with Judge Dredd. Great story, great art, super funny comic. If you haven't read Adventures in the Rifle Brigade, go get it. It's probably super cheap, funny stuff. These are Glenn Fabry covers. There's 2 little 3-issue miniseries of these. Operation Bollocks, the second one. Some people may not know about this book. So we had Kraven's Last Hunt. And then this isn't a trade. This is more like a little prestige format, a little thicker one-shot. Same team, Demetis, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Zek. Kind of a nice bookend on the Kraven the Last Hunt. So it's not cheesy, it's not a cash grab, it's a decent bookend for that story. And it's a one-shot that a lot of people probably don't know about, although maybe it's in some of the collections, so people might have read this not realizing. Yes, I'm an Archie guy. Grew up with Archie, so I love the 60s and 70s Archie, early 80s. So here's an old Archie. I mentioned before in my other video, Archie Giant series is a separate series, so those are always good. Here's a couple of those. Christmas issue. Avengers in the 180s, so this was the Jim Shooter run, which is great. Always try to get a few of these. Probably need to update my comic list so I know which ones I'm missing. Here's that Terminus issue. They got super, well not super, but got expensive because of some TV show or something. So I think I got this at a decent price. I went ahead and grabbed it because this is, for those that don't know, this is, in my opinion, the best Avengers run. There was a Roger Stern, John Buscema run in the mid-80s, about 50 issues. Great, amazing stuff. And this one got a little expensive, but all those issues are still affordable. Highly recommend. This is a reprint. Obviously, I can't afford keys. I mentioned that in my last video. But here's that Avengers Annual 10. That's pretty famous and pretty expensive because it's the first Rogue, I think. I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to find, but here's the reprint. Batman Year One. Notice I just got a couple odd issues because they've gotten a little expensive, but I must have got these at a decent price. Always get the original copies when you can. Don't get the trade paperback. Go buy the real thing. Get the ads. Get the letters column in the back. Some more Archies. It's a pretty old Betty and Veronica number 90. This is before my time. Like I said, I collected in the late 70s, early 80s, but I love these old Archies. But I'm not as familiar with exactly what year these came out. But always trying to get these. For those that don't know, Archies are harder to get in nice condition because they're kids comics and kids tear them up and draw on them. That's what I did with mine. So Archies are a little hard to find and really hard to find in decent shape. But again, most people don't care about Archie, so I guess that doesn't matter. Brave and the Bold. Again, some people may not know, but Neil Adams' Batman, I think it started in Brave and the Bold. So there's I don't know, maybe 10 or so issues of Neil Adams' art in Brave and the Bold, and this is one of them, I'm pretty sure. Sometimes it's not clear if he just did the covers or not. I think he did interiors on this. Batman, Flash, how good is that? Classic X-Men. I've never been a huge X-Men fan, but I love these Art Adams covers, and they were reprinting the classic X-Men. They were reprinting the new X-Men, the Dave Cockrum and the John Byrne, you know, that era. So recently started trying to get some of these classic X-Men so I could read some of these stories in kind of a floppy format. People in the comments might know better than me, but I think they added some extra content to these, like maybe added a couple extra panels or a couple extra pages to the original stories. This was that Marvel 25th anniversary month, and they did all these great covers. Here's one of them. So many great covers in that month. Of course, Art Adams. How can you go wrong? The reason I don't have these in order is because, again, this is just some of the ones I picked up in the last 2 years. When I sort them all in with my real collection, then I put them all in order and everything. Okay, I think that's a great cover. I mentioned this in my last video, so I won't go through it again, but this era is after Frank Miller was off Daredevil, but before he came back and did the Born Again with Mazzucchelli. And people may not realize that Mazzucchelli was drawing some of these issues, and so some really great early Mazzucchelli art in this era of Daredevil, kind of after Frank Miller and before Miller came back and did Born Again. All right, and here is a couple of those Born Again issues. These are a little pricey to get as a set, but if you can find the single issues, they're not too expensive. And again, I prefer the floppies over trade paperbacks whenever possible. Born Again issue. How great is that? Pariah. Saved. Amazing graphics by Mazzucchelli. Beautiful stuff. I think I reread this Kevin Smith run, and it doesn't hold up that great, but it's still got some beautiful art by Quesada. The stories aren't bad, so recently I tried to reacquire these. I lost my whole collection about, I don't know, 15 years ago, so I've been trying to reacquire some of the stuff that means something to me. As Daredevil fans might know, that Echo TV show came out and made 1 or 2 particular issues of this run super expensive. So unfortunately I don't have that first Echo, even though for a time it was not an expensive issue. Dark Knight Returns. Whenever I've come across these and they're not too expensive, and they are first prints, which is always tricky. You got to make sure you get the first prints if you care about that kind of stuff. But I always try to pick these up, and it's usually always issue 3 and 4. Issue 1 and 2. 1 is almost impossible to find at a good price, and 2 is pretty pricey too. Desert Decay, Brian Moss. If you don't have this, go get it. Seek out Brian Moss on Insta or wherever. Website, Desert Decay. Crazy, trippy, great story, great art. Anyway, go get it. Neil Adams Detective issue. Some of these might look a little better on camera. They're not in the greatest shape, but I don't care that much as long as I can get an original floppy that I can read in my hands. Neal Adams art, can't go wrong. I mentioned this in my last video as well. These are the EC reprints. So these are like in the 90s, they reprinted some of these. But some great art and some really good writing in some of these, even though they're very short stories, so you can't really get too much time. This story is a great, great story. Anyway, John Byrne, Fantastic Four, always trying to get the full run of this, which I think I have now. Need to update my list and do better about that. Yeah. And here's one of the Art Adams. No, I think he just did the cover here. Oh, it's not Art Adams. But this was the, after Byrne went off, there was a little gap, and then Walt Simonson came on, and so these are a couple of those issues. Gen 13. I don't even remember getting this, but I think this, yeah, J. Scott Campbell, so you can't go wrong with J. Scott Campbell art. Glad I got this. Don't even remember getting it. Might have got it at a convention or something at a decent price. I'm a huge G.I. Joe guy. Always will be. Recently reread a lot of these. They hold up. They're great. This cover is by Michael Golden. That's why it looks so amazing and stands out, because it's Michael Golden. This was a great story. One of the first Storm Shadow appearances. This might be the first Destro. Not that any of these are keys, but anyway, these are some of the really good ones in that era. Here's some of the later ones, which are still good. I recently reread these up through like issue 61 or so. Some more G.I. Joes. Great Mike Zack covers on some of these. Here we go. And I even bagged this one backwards because I love the October Guard. So this was the G.I. Joe yearbook number 2 with Michael Golden art. And I got a couple copies of these. So I bagged this one backwards so I could look at the October Guard, which is a great team that they have never really expanded on. And maybe it's irrelevant now because the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Tom Scioli's GoBots. This, I think I got, so I might have mentioned, I can't really afford keys, but this is a key. But as you can see, it's cover's all torn. Cover might even be detached. Here's a chunk out of it. So I don't care about that. Here's an original Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Neal Adams, one of the drug issues that was pretty famous. Yeah. This is a reprint. I think this is the first John Jones, I think. No, I can't remember his name, but the Black Green Lantern, which is a great character. This is the first appearance, so it's very hard to find. So this is a reprint of that. This is like one of those facsimile editions. So I could probably never afford the actual issue, but here's the closest thing I can get other than maybe a trade paperback. All right, here we go. Our brother, R.I.P., Ed Piskor. This is an amazing series that he did, Hip Hop Family Tree. If you know anything about rap, the beginnings of rap, late 70s, early 80s, this is an incredible chronicle of rap, of all the early artists, the founding fathers, the ones who put together what we know now as rap. I got a full run of these from his sister at a convention. This might be the full run, just not in order. But yeah, great series. You can get a trade paperback of those if you can't get the floppies. I got the floppies. They're hard to find. So but you can get the trade paperback of that. I have to resituate this in a minute so my comics don't collapse. Here's a McFarlane Hulk. Some of those are expensive, so I probably got this at a decent price at a convention or something. Recently read this run of Hulk for the first time. This is the Peter David run. I was knocked out by how good. I always knew Dale Keown was good, but I was really knocked out at just how good Dale Keown is. So, been trying to get a few of those issues if I can find them. And I've done a good job of keeping track of my Hulk, which ones I'm missing. So this was probably one that I was missing that I got. Sal Buscema, probably the best Hulk artist. Yeah. Dale Keown issue. Some more Archie stuff. People that aren't into Archie may not know, but there are a few series that are harder to get. The hardest ones to get are Josie and Sabrina. So whenever I can fill in my Josies, I get them when I can find them. So there's a couple Josie and the Pussycats. Love the rare stuff, love the weird stuff. So that's why I like the Josie. There's also one called Madhouse, which, yeah, I actually got one here. I'll talk about that. Jughead, probably Sam Schwartz, one of the greatest Archie artists in my opinion. Here's a Madhouse. I love these just because they're weird, they're different. They're a little harder to get also just because they're not, you know, Betty and Veronica or Archie. So it's a fun series, weird stories. Weapon X. Hard to get a full run of this now. So when I get a stray issue, I grab it. So I must have got this at a decent price. Early issue of Iron Fist and Marvel Premiere. Probably Gil Kane art. One of the final issues of Marvel Team Up. So Marvel Team Up ended in the mid-80s with issue 150. Those last few issues are kind of etched in my brain because that's when I got back into comics. So here's a couple of those last couple issues. Definitely remember that one. New Mutants were big, so here's Cannonball. Stray issue of Marvels. I must have saw this at a convention at a cheap price, so I grabbed it. I do remember getting these. So I was at a convention. I've almost never seen these in the wild. These are the original Miracle Man, not that stupid Marvel reprint where they like censored it. So these are the original by Eclipse. And I was at a convention and somebody had, you know, not a full run, just straight issues, but they had several at a decent price. So I got more than these than I ever thought I would have from that vendor at a convention a couple years ago. Original Miracle Man by Alan Moore, the Eclipse versions, and I'll probably never get a full run of these, but it's nice to have some of the floppies. Give me one moment so I can resituate this. Sorry about this. Take a moment. About 2/3 of the way through here. More good stuff to come. Alright, this is a funky, funny comic. Neil Adams started Pacific Comics, I think it was called. Sorry if I don't remember all these details. I think he actually drew this one. So some of those comics he just did like covers or he had assistants or whatever. But this is like I think this is like a full Neil Adams comic, Miss Mystic #1. So I saw that, couldn't pass it up. Orion by Walt Simonson. So for those that don't know, in the late 90s, early 2000s, Walt did essentially his version of New Gods. So he called it Orion, but it's got, you know, a lot of the New Gods characters. Really cool stuff. Really great, sort of 30 or about 30 issue long, basically one long story about Orion. So if you're not aware of this, seek it out. I think I got most of these. They're not in order, but I think I got most of them on eBay. Yeah, so this is Walt Simonson doing New Gods and just doing some amazing stuff. Need to reread this. I read it about 15 years ago, and I was shocked at how, you know, I've read his Thor, but I was like, this might be my favorite Simonson book. Outer Heaven by Brian Moss. Gotta get this if you don't have it. I mentioned this in my last video. I've been trying to get these Peter Parkers from like issue 60 to maybe 120 or so. So here's some of those. Cloak and Dagger was in a lot of those issues. Great new characters. Power Pack, laugh if you might, but the artist on this, and I'm sorry I don't know their name off the top of my head, really interesting, different, good art in these. So I think the stories are fine. It's been forever since I read these, but the art is, I would say, overlooked, and I'd say this artist is overlooked. So Power Pack, I picked up these. Again, it doesn't show on camera, but some of these aren't in the greatest shape, but I got these pretty cheap, and hopefully we'll read some of these soon. Got mostly a full run of the first maybe 20 issues or so. Yeah, very distinctive, outstanding art in these comics, and I think the artist drew most of them, so not just a kid's book. Mentioned this in my last video. Punisher Max by Garth Ennis. Been trying to fill in the gaps on these. All these are great. Some of the story arcs are really outstanding. This is when another writer took over, but Goran Parloff did the art, and this is a great, crazy story arc. Going back to the Bayou. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Look how crazy that is. Here's a Sabrina I mentioned. Hard to find, therefore I grab it when I can. Number 5, it's a pretty early issue. Saw some of these in my last video. Love that cover. Sin City, going back. One of my favorite Sin Cities. Maybe Dame to Kill For is my top one. It's hard to pick. Alan Moore Supreme. I don't have a full run of these, but I've got a decent number of them. Alan Moore Swamp Thing. Here's a great Frank Miller comic that people may not be aware of. Got some hilarious stories in it. Tales to Offend, it's called. I think it was only one of these by Dark Horse. You can read the dialogue on this cover. It's great stuff. In fact, I'll read it real quick. The creature here, he says, "With these weapons you have sold to us, we will torment the innocent. We will subjugate every soul in the galaxy." And the guy says, "Whatever you say, buddy. If your money's good, your money's good." So that's what you get in this comic. It's hilarious. Some Walt Simonson Thors. I think I got pretty much a full run of those put together. John Byrne West Coast Avengers. A couple of these got incredibly expensive because of the WandaVision show, so I probably will never get a full run of these, but I got some of them, quite a few of them. And that's it for this long box.